My husband just pushed me out of the car in the middle of a storm. He left me alone on a dark and deserted road. As I cried in resignation in the freezing cold, a luxury car pulled up. A blind man stepped toward me and whispered, "Come with me. Pretend to be my wife. Your husband will deeply regret leaving you." I never expected it. By the way, before the story begins, please write in the comments where you are watching this story from. Do not forget to like and subscribe so Revenge with Jane can grow and present even more interesting stories. Lightning flashed, illuminating the tense interior of the car for a second. Thunder roared right after, nearly swallowing Anthony's deafening shout. "Shut up, Willow, shut up, you do not understand anything." Willow, sitting in the passenger seat, clutched her purse tightly. Her thick scarf felt damp, just from the tension inside the car. Outside, the rain poured as if dumped from the sky. The road they were taking was a notorious shortcut between cities, known for being deserted. There were no streetlights, no houses. Left and right were only massive trees looking terrifying in the middle of the storm. "I was just asking, Anthony, why are our savings gone? Yesterday, another bill came. It said we are 3 months behind on the house payments." Willow's voice trembled, half out of fear of her husband's anger, half out of the cold. The car's heater was broken, but the atmosphere remained hot with emotion. "I said shut up." Anthony hit the steering wheel hard. "I used that money for capital. Capital! You think life is easy? You think sitting at home brings money on its own? You are a wife. Your job is to support your husband, not interrogate him like a cop." "But what capital? Anthony, you never told me? You keep coming home late? Sometimes you do not come home?" Willow whispered. "Is it not enough?" Anthony slammed on the brakes. Their car stopped with a terrifying screech of tires on the wet asphalt. Willow was jolted forward. Good thing she had her seatbelt on. Her heart dropped. There was a moment of silence. Only the sound of rain hammering the roof of the car. "Why did you stop here?" asked Willow. Her fear started to peak. This place was pitch black. Anthony did not answer. He stared straight ahead. His breathing was heavy. Then he turned to Willow. His gaze was cold, colder than the rain outside. That was not her husband's gaze. "Willow, I am sick of it," he hissed. "What do you mean, Anthony?" Anthony unlocked the car doors. "Get out. Get out. Get out of my car. Now!" Anthony barked. "Anthony, it is pouring rain. In the middle of the woods. Do not joke around." He walked around to Willow's door, opened it roughly, and pulled his wife's arm. Willow screamed. "No, Anthony, do not. I am sorry. I will not ask anymore. Anthony, do not." Anthony was stronger. He dragged Willow out of the car. Willow's body was instantly hit by ice-cold rain. Her long dress was soaked in seconds. Her scarf stuck to her face and neck. Willow fell to her knees on the rough asphalt. "Anthony! Anthony!" she screamed. Anthony looked at her with disgust. "You want to know where I go? I am sick of you. I am sick of living poor. You are a burden. Ever since I married you, my life has been cursed." After uttering those cruel words, Anthony got back into the car. He slammed the door. "No, Anthony! Anthony!" But Anthony just started the engine. Willow's tears mixed with the rain. Anthony turned the car around. The headlights blinded Willow for a moment. Then the car sped off through the storm, leaving her all alone. The red taillights grew smaller, then disappeared into the darkness. Willow sat weakly in the middle of the road, alone, in the middle of the woods, at night, during a rainstorm. The man who had been married to her for 5 years just threw her away like garbage. The cold began to creep in, piercing her skin. She shivered violently. This was not just the cold of the rain, but the cold of betrayal. She tried to stand, but her legs trembled. She had to move. She could not freeze to death here. She tried to call for help, but her voice was swallowed by the wind and thunder. She reached into the pocket of her dress. There was her phone, but when she pressed the button, the screen remained black. The battery was dead. Of course, Anthony must have known. This was planned. Willow cried hysterically. An overwhelming fear gripped her. What if there were wild animals? What if bad people passed by? She hugged herself, trying to preserve any remaining body heat. She limped to the side of the road, taking shelter under a large tree, even though it did not help much. Every lightning strike showed how deserted and terrifying the place was. She remembered all of Anthony's lies, remembered all his sweet promises. She remembered Linda, her mother-in-law, who always looked at her cynically, as if Willow was the biggest mistake in her son's life. Did her mother-in-law know about this plan? Willow began to despair. Her body went numb from the cold. She could not even shiver anymore. She could only lean against the tree, close her eyes, pray in her heart. She gave up. Who knows how long she was there? 1 hour, 2 hours. It felt like forever. The rain began to ease slightly, though still heavy. Suddenly, from a distance, she saw a pair of lights, car headlights. A spark of hope appeared in her heart, but it was immediately extinguished, replaced by fear. Who would be driving on this road this late at night? Was it a good person? Willow shuffled backward, trying to hide behind the tree trunk. The car got closer. It was not an ordinary car. It was a very luxurious and shiny black sedan. The car slowed down and stopped, right in front of her. Willow held her breath. Her heart beat fast. The front door opened. A man in a chauffeur's uniform got out, carrying a large umbrella. He walked calmly, opened the back door. From inside the car, a man stepped out. He was about 45 years old. He was dressed neatly in an expensive suit, but there was something strange. He held a long white cane. He moved the cane in front of him. The man was blind. The driver held the umbrella for him, but the man raised his hand, signaling the driver to stay put. Strangely, the blind man walked straight toward Willow. He did not hesitate. He stopped exactly 1 meter in front of Willow, who was still hiding. Willow froze. How could this blind man know she was there? The man smiled faintly. His voice was calm, deep, and authoritative. Come with me. Pretend to be my wife. My driver will come pick us up shortly. Your husband will definitely regret leaving you. Willow was in shock. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She was not just shocked because she was saved. She was shocked because this blind stranger knew exactly what had just happened to her. Willow was still rooted to the spot. Her brain tried to process the words the strange man had just said. Pretend to be his wife? Her husband will regret it? How did he know? You? Who are you? Asked Willow. Her voice was barely audible, mixed with her chattering teeth from the cold. The man, whom Willow estimated to be about 45 years old, remained calm. His face was serene, even though he could not see. My name is Alan. Now is not the time to ask questions. You could freeze to death if you stay here. Come with me. Alan held out his hand. Willow hesitated. She had just been betrayed by her own husband. How could she trust a strange man, especially one as mysterious as this? I do not understand, said Willow. I know, replied Alan. But believe me, I am not your enemy. Your enemy just drove away, leaving you. Those words struck Willow. This man knew everything. The bone-chilling cold finally overcame her fear of the unknown. She had no other choice. Die here or go with this blind man? With trembling hands, Willow accepted Alan's hand. The man's hand felt warm and strong. Alan helped her stand. Willow's legs were weak. She almost fell again, but Alan caught her swiftly. "Ben!" Alan called. The driver named Ben immediately approached and shielded them both with the umbrella, then guided them to the car. Ben opened the back door. Alan got in first, then helped Willow inside. When the car door closed, the sound of the storm outside was instantly muffled. Inside the car, it was very warm, quiet, and smelled of expensive leather, an incredible contrast to what Willow had just experienced. Ben got into the driver's seat, turned on the heater, and the car drove slowly. Willow sat in the corner, still hugging herself. She looked at the man next to her. Alan sat calmly, staring straight ahead as if he could see. "Ben, pass the blanket to the back," Alan ordered quietly. Ben took a thick wool blanket from the front seat and handed it to the back without a word. Alan took it and offered it to Willow. "Wear this. You are shivering." Willow took it. The blanket was incredibly soft and warm. She wrapped it around her soaking wet body. She started to feel her fingers again. After a moment of silence, Willow could not hold it in anymore. "How did you know I was there? How do you know about my husband?" Alan turned slightly toward Willow. "My eyes may not see, Willow, but my ears hear what others do not." Willow gasped. "You know my name?" "I know many things about you, and about Anthony," replied Alan. Willow's heart felt like it stopped beating. Anthony? This man mentioned her husband's name so casually. "Who are you really? What is your relationship with Anthony?" Willow demanded. Her fear was starting to be replaced by an urgent curiosity. "Patience," said Alan. "You will know in due time. What you need to know right now is, you are safe with me. Anthony will not be able to hurt you anymore. He is busy right now." "Busy with what?" asked Willow bitterly. "Busy celebrating his freedom?" Alan smiled faintly, a smile that was hard to decipher. "You could say that. He is busy digging his own grave." Willow did not understand. This conversation was too heavy for her while she was still in shock. She chose to stay quiet for the rest of the journey. She did not know where they were going. She just looked out the window, watching the raindrops racing on the glass. She was too tired to think. 30 minutes later, their car passed through towering, majestic wrought iron gates. They entered a vast courtyard, heading toward a house that was more fitting to be called a mansion. Willow stared at the massive building in front of her in awe. The house was modern classic in style, with large pillars and warm garden lights. The car stopped at the main lobby. Ben quickly got out and opened the door for them. As Willow stepped out, a neat, middle-aged woman, seemingly the housekeeper, was already waiting at the door. "Good evening, Mr. Allen. The guest room is ready. The warm water is also drawn." "Thank you, Mary," replied Allen. "Please take Miss Willow to her room. Give her dry and comfortable clothes to change into. Also prepare a warm drink and food." "Right away, sir." Allen then faced Willow. "Please rest. Clean yourself up. Consider this your own home. We will talk again tomorrow morning when you are calmer." Willow could only nod. She was too confused to speak. She followed Mary into the house. The interior was even more stunning than the exterior. Marble floors, expensive paintings, and furniture that looked very classy. Mary escorted her to a guest room that was probably the size of half of Willow and Anthony's rented house. There was a king-size bed, a sofa, and a luxurious ensuite bathroom. "Please, miss, The change of clothes is on the bed. If you need anything, there is a phone next to the bed to call me," said Mary kindly. "Thank you, Mary." After Mary left, Willow locked the door. She leaned against it, finally letting herself breathe. Everything happened so fast. Discarded by her husband, saved by a mysterious blind man, now in a super-luxury mansion. It felt like a dream. A nightmare that turned into a bizarre dream. She saw the change of clothes on the bed. A new set of simple yet high-quality loungewear, complete with a matching thick shawl. She quickly took a shower. The warm water seemed to melt all the ice in her body and heart. She cried again under the shower, releasing the remaining pain of tonight. After finishing dressing warmly and dryly, Willow felt much better physically. Mary knocked on the door, bringing a tray with hot chicken soup, bread, and ginger tea. Willow ate it ravenously. She just realized how hungry she was. After eating, she sat on the bed. This room was so comfortable, so safe. Far different from the fear she felt a few hours ago. But who was Alan? Why was he so kind? Why did he know all of Anthony's secrets? He called himself Alan. He was 45 years old. He was blind. And he was extremely wealthy. Willow looked around the room. Her eyes landed on a nightstand next to the bed. On top of it were some books and a small silver photo frame. Curiosity moved her. She picked up the photo frame. The photo was a bit faded, looking like an old photo from years ago. In the photo, there were two young men laughing. They stood next to a sports car, their arms around each other's shoulders. Willow recognized one of the young men. It was Alan. It was definitely him, but much younger, maybe in his mid-20s. And in that photo, his eyes looked straight at the camera. He could see. Willow's heart beat fast. She then looked at the other young man. The young man smiling broadly, hugging Alan familiarly. Willow's breath caught. She knew that young man. She knew him very well. It was Anthony, her husband. Willow's breath caught. The photo felt heavy in her slightly trembling hands. She stared at the younger Anthony's face, smiling brightly, embracing Alan, who was also smiling and, most importantly, could see. This was no coincidence. These were not two strangers who happened to look alike. This was her husband, and this was her savior. The exhaustion was instantly gone, replaced by an urgent rush of adrenaline. She had to know. She had to know right now. Hurriedly, Willow opened the bedroom door. She did not even wear bedroom slippers. Her bare feet stepped on the cold marble floor, but she did not care. The house was silent. Only the ticking of a large grandfather clock could be heard in the distance. She gripped the photo frame tightly. She walked down the corridor, not knowing where to go. She just followed her instinct, heading towards the only room with lights still on downstairs. A tall, half-open, solid oak door. Willow pushed the door gently. The room was a library or a study, very large, filled with bookshelves towering to the ceiling. In one corner, near a large window showing the darkness of the night, Alan sat in a plush armchair. He was not doing anything. He just sat silently, facing the darkness, as if listening to the remnants of the rain outside. "Mr. Allen," called Willow, her voice hoarse. Alan was not surprised. He turned his head slowly toward Willow's voice. "I figured you would come. Was the soup warm enough?" Willow took a few steps forward. "You knew I would find this, did you not?" Willow held up the photo frame. She instantly felt foolish. Of course, Alan could not see it. "This photo, a photo of you, with my husband." Alan smiled, the same smile as in the car, but this time there was a hint of sadness in it. "Have a seat, Willow. I think it is time I answered your questions." Willow sat in the chair across from Alan. She placed the photo on the table between them. "You asked who I am?" Alan began. "My name is Alan Caldwell. My father, the late Harrison Caldwell, was the owner of the Caldwell Group. Perhaps you have heard of it. Willow nodded. Of course she had. It was one of the largest conglomerates in the country, though lately there had been negative rumors. Anthony, Alan continued, is the son of my father's second wife. He is my stepbrother. Willow's world felt like it was spinning. So Anthony, her husband, was a Caldwell? Why did she never know? They lived simply, even tending to lack money, in a small rented house. But Anthony never told me, and he is not rich. That is because he is a fool and greedy, just like his mother, Linda, Alan cut in. Alan took a long breath, as if gathering strength to reopen old wounds. My father married Linda after my biological mother passed away. I was a teenager then. Anthony was still little. From the start, I knew Linda was not sincere. She was only after my father's wealth. She constantly poisoned my father's mind, saying I was a rebellious child who could not be controlled, even though I was only focused on studying to take over the company. Meanwhile, Anthony, her son, she spoiled rotten. Anthony grew up to be a lazy, arrogant young man who felt entitled to everything. Willow listened closely. That description perfectly matched the Linda she knew, the woman who always looked down on her, who always demanded Willow serve Anthony like a king. My father died of a heart attack 10 years ago, Alan continued. He clearly wrote a will. 70% of the company was for me, as the first son he trained to lead. 30% was for Anthony, as a guarantee for his old age. Linda only got a house and a very large monthly allowance, but she was not satisfied. Alan clenched his fists on the armrests of his chair. 3 months after my father died, I was on my way to an important meeting with investors. Suddenly, my car's brakes failed. On a downhill road, I hit the guardrail and my car went into a ravine. Willow covered her mouth. Oh my God. I survived, said Alan flatly, but the shattered glass destroyed my optic nerves. I am completely blind. While I lay weak in the hospital, unable to see anything, Linda and Anthony made their move. They forged documents, they bribed several board members, they transferred company assets, they even tried to make me look mentally incompetent due to the accident. In 6 months, they managed to take over everything. The company, this house, all the assets in my name. That is so cruel, Willow whispered. Cruel? Alan let out a soft, hollow laugh. They did not just take my wealth, Willow. They took my eyesight. I am 100% sure the accident was planned by them. They tried to kill me, but I survived. Maybe fate wanted me to live, to see, ironically enough, to see them destroyed. Then what happened? How did you manage to… Willow gestured around the luxurious room. They threw me away, said Alan. After I got out of the hospital, they gave me a small severance, kicked me out of this house. They thought, what can this blind man do? He is finished. But they were wrong. They underestimated me, and they underestimated loyalty. Alan continued. There was one person who believed in me. Ben, my driver. His father was my father's personal driver for 30 years. He knew exactly how cunning Linda was. When I was kicked out, Ben came with me. He became my eyes and my hands. With the remaining money I had, and some secret help from a few of my father's old friends who also despised Linda, I started over. From scratch, in a different industry. Quietly, I built my own empire in the shadows, much bigger than what they stole. Willow stared at the man in front of her with mixed awe and horror. This man had been to hell and back. I waited. I gathered strength. I monitored them. I watched Anthony, with his stupidity, slowly destroy the company my father built. He gambled. He womanized. He made the wrong business decisions. Linda only knew how to spend money. And now, they are at their breaking point. Alan leaned forward. Even though his eyes could not see, Willow felt as if Alan was staring straight into her soul. "He took everything from me," said Alan, his voice now sounding cold and sharp. "My company, my house, and my eyesight. Now I am going to take everything back from him." Alan paused, letting his words sink in. "And you, Willow," he continued, "you are the key to making that justice happen." Willow fell silent. The key? Her? A woman who had just been dumped on the side of the road? I do not understand, sir. What does this have to do with me? I am just the wife he just tried to kill?" Alan cut in sharply. Willow froze. Those words hit her like a slap. What do you mean? He just left me. He did not try to kill you?" Alan shook his head slowly. "Willow, open your eyes. You think Anthony, your greedy husband, left you on a deserted road in the middle of a storm just out of anger? That was no ordinary argument." Alan revealed something that made Willow's blood run cold. 2 months ago, Anthony took out a life insurance policy in your name. The amount is massive, and the beneficiary is himself," Alan explained. Willow shook her head, refusing to believe it. No, that is impossible. I never signed anything." "He forged it," said Alan. "It is very easy for a husband to forge his wife's signature. He knows your schedule. He knows your habits. He probably did it while you were sleeping. He planned this, Willow. He is drowning in massive gambling debts. He is being chased by debt collectors from all sides. The company he runs is on the verge of collapse. He needs cash, and fast." Alan continued, his voice devoid of emotion. "His plan tonight was to dump you there. He knew you did not have a fully charged phone. He knew the place was deserted. He hoped you would die of hypothermia, or maybe, if you did not die fast enough, he would come back tomorrow morning, pretend to look for you, and find you in a tragic state. Maybe he would run you over himself and make it look like a hit-and-run accident. Whatever it was, your death would look natural, and he would be rich." Willow felt incredibly nauseous. Her stomach churned. The man she shared a bed with, the man she served every day, the man she loved, turned out to be a monster who planned her death for money. Her tears began to well up again, but this time they were not tears of sadness. These were tears of rage. How do you know all this?" asked Willow, her voice trembling with anger. "About the insurance, about his plan tonight." Here Alan smiled again. "Because, like I said, Anthony is a fool. He thinks he is a great player, but he is just a pawn. He is arrogant, and he is easily seduced, especially by beautiful women." Willow instantly understood. He has a mistress." It was not a question, but a statement. All the puzzle pieces now fit together. Coming home late, the missing money, his cold attitude. "Correct," said Alan. "Her name is Daisy. She works as a manager at one of the nightclubs where Anthony frequently gambles. Anthony is crazy about her. He thinks Daisy worships him. He told Daisy all his problems. He even told her his twisted plan about the life insurance. Anthony thinks Daisy is his co-conspirator. He promised to run away with Daisy after getting the insurance money." Alan paused, then dropped the real bombshell. "What Anthony does not know," said Alan, "is that Daisy works for me." Willow gasped. "I found Daisy a year ago," Alan explained. "I knew Anthony had a weakness for women. I looked for the right woman. Daisy is smart, beautiful, and most importantly, she hates men like Anthony. I offered her a sum she could not refuse, far more than Anthony could ever promise. Her task? Get close to Anthony, make him fall in love, push him to gamble more, drain his money faster, and report his every move to me. Willow now understood. Alan was not just waiting for Anthony to fall. He accelerated the destruction. Daisy was the one who suggested the life insurance idea to Anthony, of course in a subtle way, as if it were his own idea, said Alan. And Daisy was the one who told me the exact location where Anthony would dump you tonight. That is why I could be there right on time to pick you up. Willow leaned back in her chair. It was all too much. She was part of a massive, intricate game of revenge. She was just an unwitting bait. So, what now? Asked Willow softly. You have saved me. I can leave. I will testify to the police if necessary. The police? Alan chuckled. Who will they believe? You, a runaway wife with no proof? Or Anthony Caldwell, a respected businessman who will cry, say his wife is depressed, and accuse you of making things up? No, Willow. We are not going to use ordinary methods. We are going to destroy him my way. What do you want me to do? Just as I said in the car, replied Alan. You will pretend to be my wife. What? Willow was shocked. But how? We are not married, and you, and I am blind, Alan smiled. That is exactly why it is perfect. The world will see this as a beautiful story. A lonely, blind billionaire saved by a noble-hearted woman, and a poor woman rescued from a cruel husband by a knight. It is a narrative they will swallow whole. Alan explained his plan. Starting tomorrow, Anthony will panic. He will report to the police that you are missing. He will pretend to be sad. He will wait for news of your death. But that news will not come. He will be confused. He will make mistakes. Meanwhile, Alan continued, you will stay here. You will study. You will train. You will learn how to dress, how to speak, how to act like an upper-class woman. You will learn about business. You will transform completely. Then, at the right moment, when Anthony is at his most fragile, you will reappear. At a grand event, in front of everyone. But not as Willow, the discarded wife. You will appear as my partner. The new woman in Alan Caldwell's life. Imagine his face when he sees the woman he left to die, now standing beside me, looking more beautiful, stronger, and far wealthier. The plan was crazy, but brilliant. Willow felt a strange vibration in her body. It was no longer fear. It was a fire, a spirit to fight back. Anthony had taken her dignity. Linda had humiliated her for years. They deserved it. He took everything from me, whispered Willow. He tried to take my life. Then we will take everything from him, replied Alan. We will take his company, his money, and his freedom. Willow looked at Alan. What is the first thing I need to do? Alan smiled. He knew she had agreed. For tonight, nothing. You go back to your room. Sleep. Recover your strength. You have had a long night. Alan stood up, as if knowing exactly where Willow was. Starting tomorrow, the old Willow is dead. Dead on that deserted road, just as Anthony wanted. Willow stood up as well. Tomorrow, said Alan as he walked to the door, we begin a new life for you. And tomorrow, Anthony begins the beginning of the end of his life. Anthony opened his eyes with a start. The first thing he noticed was the unfamiliar perfume of a woman, not the scent of jasmine laundry soap Willow usually wore. He was in Daisy's apartment. His head pounded. Last night, after leaving Willow, he did not go straight home. He went to a nightclub, drank, and ended up here. He needed an alibi. He needed a place to celebrate his impending freedom. He reached for his phone on the nightstand. 9 in the morning. He unlocked the screen, his heart beating a little fast. He waited for notifications. A call from the police, a breaking news alert online. A woman's body has been found. Or an accident on the deserted mountain road. Nothing. His phone screen was clear. There were only a few unread debt collection messages and a sweet good morning text from Daisy, who had already left for work. Anthony frowned. Strange. There should have been news by now. It was impossible for Willow to survive the storm last night. She must have frozen to death. Or maybe no one had found her yet. Yes, that made more sense. That road was extremely isolated. He had to start his act. He could not look calm. He had to look like a panicked, confused husband. Anthony quickly showered, put on his wrinkled clothes, and drove back to their rented house. He parked the car, deliberately slightly crooked to look rushed. He ran into the house. "Willow! Willow!" The house was silent, empty. Of course, exactly as he expected. Anthony took a deep breath, thinking of the dialogue he needed to say. He grabbed his phone and called Ashley, Willow's closest friend. The phone rang 3 times before it was picked up. "Hello? Ashley?" Anthony made his voice hoarse and panicked. "Ashley, are you with Willow? Is she at your house?" Ashley's sleepy voice came through. "Huh? Willow? No. Why, Anthony? It is still early." Oh my God. Anthony punched the wall lightly, acting. Last night we had a massive argument in the car. I was wrong, Ashley. I lost my temper. She demanded to get out in the middle of the road, on the deserted mountain road. I thought she was just joking, but she actually got out. I waited, but she did not come back. I looked for her in the rain, but she was gone. I thought she would call you or walk home herself, but she has not come home yet. Ashley, I am terrified something happened. Ashley's voice immediately panicked. "What? Are you crazy, Anthony? Leaving Willow on a deserted road in the middle of the night, during a storm? Is her phone on?" "That is the problem. Her phone seems to be dead. My calls are going straight to voicemail," said Anthony, playing his role perfectly. "Oh my God, I will try to call our other friends." Ashley hung up. Perfect. The seeds of panic had been sown. Ashley would tell everyone. Now, phase 2, the police. Anthony went to the nearest police precinct. He walked in with a pale face and bloodshot eyes. The lack of sleep and alcohol from last night helped him look like a wreck. He told the same story to the officer. "We had a massive argument, officer," he said, covering his face. "Marital problems. I lost control. I yelled at her and she recklessly got out of the car, on the deserted mountain road. I waited, I searched, but the rain was so heavy. I thought she would hitch a ride. I regret it, officer. I made a huge mistake. Please find my wife, officer." An older detective looked at him sharply. "The deserted mountain road? Last night? During the storm? And you left her there?" I panicked, officer. I was emotional." Anthony deflected. "Why are you reporting this now, Mr. Anthony? Why not last night?" asked the detective, his tone suspicious. I thought she would come home. I was ashamed. I did not know what to do. I searched for her all night until morning. The moment I realized she was truly missing, I came straight here." Anthony wove his lies. The detective noted down his report, but his gaze clearly showed he did not believe him 100%. "All right, we will send a patrol unit to sweep the area. But honestly, sir, your actions of leaving your wife there were highly irresponsible." Anthony could only look down, pretending to be remorseful. He went home with mixed feelings. The police were suspicious, but that was normal. The important thing was, the report had been filed. Now he just had to wait for the news of the body being found. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, inside Alan's luxurious mansion, the new Willow was born. She woke up in a guest room that felt more comfortable than her entire house. She was still disoriented for a moment, thinking everything was just a bad dream. But then she saw the dry clothes she was wearing, the luxury of the room, and the memories of last night came crashing back. The photo of Anthony and Alan, the revenge plan. After freshening up and clearing her chaotic thoughts, Mary knocked on the door. She brought Willow breakfast and a new set of clothes. Not a simple dress, but an elegant woman's business suit, complete with a silk scarf. When she went down to the dining room, Alan was already sitting there, accompanied by Ben standing in the corner. "Good morning, Willow," greeted Alan. "Sleep well?" I could not sleep," Willow answered honestly. "Everything you said last night—" "Good," said Alan. "Use that anger. Use that pain. Starting today, you are no longer a victim. You are a warrior." That day, Willow's transformation began. Alan meant every word. He brought in the best team. First, a very strict middle-aged woman named Mrs. Sinclair, an etiquette and confidence coach. "No, Miss Willow," she said repeatedly. "Your posture must be straight, chin up. Meet the eyes of whoever you are speaking to, as if you command the room. Again." Willow had to learn to walk in high heels, something she rarely did. She had to learn formal dining etiquette, how to shake hands, how to smile politely but keep a distance. "You are no longer the submissive Willow," said Mrs. Sinclair. "You are Ms. Willow, Mr. Alan Caldwell's business partner. You must look the part." Second, a personal stylist. Willow's wardrobe was completely overhauled. Her dull, modest dresses were replaced with designer clothes. Everything remained elegant and modest, matching her scarf. But the materials, the cuts, the colors, everything radiated an aura of luxury and power. Her scarf was no longer just thrown on casually, but styled in a modern and sophisticated way. Third, and most importantly, was Alan himself. Every night, Alan spent hours with her in the library. "You must understand the business Anthony stole," said Alan. "You must know what we are fighting for." Alan, with his incredible memory despite being blind, taught Willow the ins and outs of the Caldwell Group. He explained where Anthony's weaknesses lay. He gave Willow the financial reports of the Allen Group, his new company. "You must be able to answer if anyone asks. You are not just an ornament, Willow. You are my right hand." Willow learned quickly. She devoured all the information. Every time she felt exhausted or wanted to cry, she would close her eyes and remember the feeling. Left on that road, the cold, the fear, the betrayal. It was the fuel that kept her moving forward. 1 week passed. On the other side, Anthony was growing increasingly panicked. No news, no body, no Willow. The police had called him back twice for interrogation. The same detective asked increasingly sharp questions. "We have swept the location. There are no signs of a struggle, no tracks. Are you sure your wife did not leave with someone else?" Linda, his mother, also began to panic. "Anthony, what is going on? Why is Willow missing? What if she runs her mouth? Your debts are everywhere. We could be ruined." "Shut up, Mom. I am handling it," Anthony snapped. The debt collectors became more aggressive. They threatened to seize his assets. Anthony was losing his mind. He needed that insurance money now. But how could he claim it if there was no body? One afternoon, as he was racking his brain in his office, Alan's old office, an invitation landed on his desk. Delivered by a courier, not regular mail. The envelope was thick, ivory-colored, with gold ink printing. "You are cordially invited, Mr. Anthony Caldwell, to the annual charity gala and the official launch of the Allen Group." Anthony's heart felt like it stopped beating. Alan. That name again. Alan Caldwell. His stepbrother. No, impossible. Alan had become a homeless beggar. Alan was blind. This must be someone else who coincidentally had the same name. But Alan Group. It was too much of a coincidence. While he was still frozen holding the invitation, his secret phone, the one he used specifically for Daisy, rang. He picked it up roughly. "What is it?" Daisy's voice sounded on the other end, not her usual flirtatious voice. This time, her voice sounded terrified, truly terrified. "Emergency, Anthony, emergency!" Daisy cried. "Emergency, why? Do not play around. I have a headache." "I am not playing around," sobbed Daisy. "I saw Willow. I am sure it was her. I was at the Grand Plaza, going to buy a bag, and I saw her walking out of the most expensive boutique. She was so beautiful, Anthony. Different. She wore expensive clothes. Her scarf. Oh my God." Anthony froze. Are you sure? Willow?" "Yes, and she was not alone. She was holding a man's arm. A very wealthy man. It looked like the man was blind. He used a white cane. But he was surrounded by bodyguards. They got into a luxury car. Anthony, I am sure it was Willow. She looked happy." Daisy. Anthony's heart felt like it was hit by a sledgehammer. Willow. Alive. At an expensive boutique. With a wealthy blind man. And he had just received a gala invitation from the Allen Group. Alan. His stepbrother. Who was also blind. Those two facts collided in his head, creating a horrifying conclusion. He had to go to that gala. He had to see it for himself. The grand ballroom of the hotel sparkled. It was the most prestigious party of the year. Hundreds of the city's wealthiest and most influential people gathered. Business tycoons, officials, and socialites mingled, enjoying champagne and fine dining. They were all here for one reason: curiosity. Who was Alan Caldwell? The Caldwell name had been known for a long time, but it was synonymous with Anthony and Linda, whose reputation worsened by the day. But the Allen Group, it appeared out of nowhere, buying up several failing companies and turning them into gold mines in just a year. And tonight, the mysterious owner would reveal his face. Anthony arrived alone. He wore his best suit, but his face was haggard and his eyes were wild. He looked like a wounded wolf in the middle of an aristocratic gathering. He gripped his glass tightly, his eyes sweeping every corner of the room. He was looking for Willow. Suddenly, he saw his mother. Linda was also there, looking equally anxious. Linda approached Anthony. "Anthony, what on earth is this? Who exactly is this Allen Group?" hissed Linda. "Why are they using a name so similar to him? It makes me uncomfortable." "I do not know, Mom. Leave me alone. I am looking for someone," Anthony replied curtly. He did not care about his mother's anxiety. He only cared about Daisy's report. Willow was alive. Willow was here. Suddenly, the soft background music stopped. The ballroom lights dimmed slightly. An MC walked onto the small stage. "Good evening. Thank you for your presence. Tonight is a special night. We gather not only for charity, but also to officially welcome the arrival of the Allen Group to this city." A thunderous applause was heard. "And now, without further ado, let us welcome the man behind this incredible vision, philanthropist, as well as chairman and CEO of the Allen Group, Mr. Alan Caldwell." All eyes turned to the main entrance. Spotlights focused there. The double doors opened. Anthony held his breath. There stood Alan, his stepbrother. He looked exactly as he remembered, perhaps just a little older. Being 45 years old gave him an authoritative presence. His black suit was perfectly tailored. His hair was neatly combed. He held his white cane made of polished wood with a silver handle. He smiled calmly. Anthony felt his legs go weak. A ghost. The ghost of his past problems now stood before him, alive, and clearly very rich. But that was not what made Anthony nearly faint. Beside Alan, holding his arm intimately and confidently, stood a woman. It was Willow. But it was not the Willow he knew. The Willow he discarded on the side of the road was a simple woman in a dull cotton dress. The Willow he knew was a woman who always looked down and cried easily. The woman standing under the spotlight was a different person entirely. She wore a luxurious emerald green evening dress, studded with fine, sparkling crystals. A matching silk scarf framed her face, which was now perfectly made up. Her makeup was not heavy, but sharp. Her eyes, which used to be sorrowful, now stared straight ahead, sharp and calm. Her posture was upright. Her chin was lifted. She was a queen. The crowd applauded, mesmerized by the surprising couple. A handsome, blind billionaire and an incredibly elegant woman in a head wrap. That is not... Is that Willow? Hissed Linda next to Anthony. Her voice was shrill from shock. How dare she? What is she doing with that blind man? Alan and Willow walked slowly into the room. Alan walked with complete confidence, as if he could see. Willow guided him gently, whispering occasionally in his ear, to which Alan replied with a smile. They looked so close, so perfect together. Every step they took felt like a stomp on Anthony's chest. They stopped several times, greeting important guests. The major businessmen who used to look down on Anthony now bowed respectfully to Alan and smiled warmly at Willow. Mr. Allen, let me introduce myself. I am, Mr. Davis from Horizon Bank. A pleasure to meet you, Allen cut in, shaking the man's hand accurately. People were impressed. This blind man knew who they were. And Willow, she just smiled faintly, nodding. Good evening, Mr. Davis. Her voice was different, no longer trembling. It was calm and authoritative. Anthony could not take it anymore. This was an insult. The woman he threw away was now the center of attention. This could not be allowed. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring his mother's calls. He walked fast, his steps full of rage. He stopped right in front of them, blocking their path. Willow, he barked roughly. The music instantly stopped. The conversations around them died. Everyone turned to look. Willow stared at him. She was not surprised. She was not afraid. She looked at Anthony with a cold stare, the same stare Anthony had given her in the car that night. Alan stopped walking, a faint smile playing on his lips. He knew this would happen. Willow, what is the meaning of this? Where have you been? Anthony raged. Go home. Come home with me right now. He reached out his hand, trying to grab Willow's arm. Before Anthony's hand could touch her, Ben, who was now dressed sharply like a bodyguard, stepped forward. But Willow raised her hand slightly, signaling Ben to back off. She could handle this. Willow looked Anthony up and down. Her gaze was insulting, as if she were looking at dirt on her shoe. Excuse me, sir, said Willow. Her voice was clear, calm, and formal, heard by everyone around them. Who are you? I think you have the wrong person. I am here accompanying Mr. Allen. Total silence fell over the ballroom. Anthony's jaw dropped. The guests began to whisper. Wrong person? Willow, Anthony shouted, his face turning bright red. Do not play crazy. I am your husband. I am Anthony. How dare you? You ungrateful wife. You ran off with this blind man. Linda finally caught up. That is right, Willow. We have been looking for you. Go home right now. Do not embarrass the family. Willow did not even glance at Linda. Her eyes remained fixed on Anthony. Sir, I do not know you, and you are causing a scene at my partner's party. Security, please. Before she finished speaking, Alan made his move. Alan, who had been standing silently, took one step forward. He stood right between Willow and Anthony, positioning himself slightly in front of Willow, protecting her. He did not look at Anthony, but his head faced straight towards him. He sniffed the air slightly. The same cheap perfume. You never change, Anthony. Anthony froze. Alan smiled. A smile Anthony recognized very well. The condescending smile Alan always gave him every time Anthony did something stupid when they were young. Long time no see. Alan's voice sounded calm, yet echoed throughout the silent room. Little brother? Anthony's face turned from red to deathly pale. It was as if he had seen a ghost. He took a step back. Alan Caldwell, his stepbrother, the one he thought was dead, whose fortune he stole, whom he blinded, now standing before him, alive, extremely wealthy, and holding the arm of the woman he had just tried to kill. The game had officially begun. Anthony drove like a madman. He left the party even before Alan and Willow finished stepping off the small stage. The whispers and suppressed laughter from the guests felt like needles piercing his back. He slammed the car door and pounded the dashboard repeatedly. Alan, that blind man, alive, and Willow, that woman. He could not process it. His stepbrother, who should have been destroyed to pieces, had now returned as a billionaire. And Willow, the woman he dumped to die, was now standing by his side, looking like a queen. This was no mere coincidence. This was a plan. Daisy's report, the party, the invitation, all of it was a trap. She was holding the arm of a blind man. Anthony suddenly remembered Daisy's words. Daisy did not know that the blind man was Alan, but Daisy— Anthony tried to call Daisy, his secret phone. It rang, but no one answered. He tried again. No answer. He sent a text. Pick up. This is urgent. Alan is back. The message sent. 1 checkmark. Unread. Damn it. He arrived at the rented house. Empty. He slammed the door. He paced back and forth in the cramped living room. What should he do? Alan would definitely seek revenge. Alan knew all his dirty deeds. No. Anthony tried to calm himself down. Alan might be rich, but the Caldwell Group was still his. Alan could not just take it away. He had to secure his assets. He had to sell some properties, transfer the money to offshore accounts. He had to run. But to run, he needed money. Willow's insurance money was now impossible to get. He could not sleep that night. At 3 a.m, he was still sitting on the broken sofa, thinking about his next move. He had to sell some assets, move them to an offshore account. He had to flee, but to flee, he needed money. At 8 a.m, hell began. His phone rang. It was from the manager of his primary bank. Good morning, Mr. Anthony. Sorry to disturb you. We just wanted to inform you that your revolving credit facility for the Caldwell Group has been frozen this morning. Anthony jumped off the sofa. What? Frozen? On what grounds? I have never been late on a payment. I am sorry, sir. The manager's voice sounded cold. There has been a change in ownership regarding the collateral for your debt. Your company's entire debt portfolio has been bought out by a single investor, the Allen Group. Anthony's heart felt like it was being squeezed. Alan. He was already making his move. Before Anthony could finish cursing, his other phone rang. An unknown number. He picked it up roughly. Hello? Anthony Caldwell? A heavy, gruff voice spoke. It was the loan shark who had given him a massive gambling loan. Nice party you had last night. I saw you on the news. Your new friend, Alan. Yeah, it is a shame. He just bought all your debt from me, and he wants his money back. Today, by 12 noon. Otherwise, my guys are going to take your kidneys. The phone hung up. Anthony panicked. He was trembling. He had to run. He needed Daisy. He called Daisy again. This time, the response was different. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." Anthony froze. Not in service. Daisy had run away. But what about their money? He opened the mobile banking app on his secret phone. He entered the password for the joint account he set up in Daisy's name, the account where he had been hoarding the last scraps of company money for their escape. Balance: $0. The screen stared back at him. 0. Empty. Daisy had drained it all. What Anthony does not know, Alan's voice from the night of Willow's rescue seemed to echo in his ears. "Daisy works for me." Anthony screamed, a scream of pure desperation. He had been played. He had been played from all sides. Daisy was Alan's spy. All this time, he had been funding his own destruction. He could not give up. He still had the company. He had to get to the office. He had to stop this. He jumped into his car and sped toward the Caldwell Group building. He ran into the lobby. But when he tried to scan his access card at the turnstile, a red light flashed. Access denied. "Excuse me, sir." A new security guard, heavily built, blocked his way. "Move aside. This is my office. I am Anthony Caldwell." "Not anymore, sir," the guard said. Right at that moment, the elevator doors chimed open. A group of men in expensive suits walked out. They were a team of lawyers. Walking calmly in front of them was Ben, Alan's driver. Ben stopped in front of Anthony. He looked at Anthony with a flat stare. "Mr. Anthony Caldwell, I am here representing Mr. Alan Caldwell, the new legal owner of the Caldwell Group. Based on the conversion of debt into preferred stock that occurred at 8 this morning." Ben handed a stack of documents to Anthony's chest. "This is the notification letter of the Extraordinary General Shareholders Meeting, which has dismissed you from your position as CEO. You are barred from entering this property. All your personal assets tied to the company have been frozen. Good morning." Ben and his team walked past him, leaving Anthony standing frozen in the lobby, holding the papers that destroyed his life. Employees passing by stared at him, whispering. He had lost everything. The company, the money, the mistress, the wife, everything. In less than 12 hours. He walked out of that building like a zombie. He did not know where to go. The rented house would definitely be seized soon. He only had one place left, the place where he always felt safe, his mother's house. He drove to the luxurious mansion left by his father, where Linda lived. He would hide there. He would formulate a plan. As he arrived at the intersection leading to the house, he saw something that made him slam on the brakes. In front of his mother's gates, there were 2 police cars and a moving truck. He saw men loading his mother's antique furniture into the truck. Paintings, vases. He got out of the car running. "Hey, what is the meaning of this? This is my house." An officer intercepted him. "Are you Mr. Anthony? Calm down, sir." "Calm down? Those are my mother's things. This house." "This house," said the officer, reading from a warrant, "has been seized as collateral for your personal debt to the Allen Group. It is all entirely legal." Anthony collapsed onto the sidewalk. It was over. Truly over. That was when his phone rang. "Mom" appeared on the screen. He picked it up with trembling hands. Linda's voice came through. But it was not the arrogant voice he usually heard. It was a hysterical scream that was deafening. "Anthony! Anthony! Help me! The police! The police came to the salon! They are taking me away! They said I am involved in document forgery! Anthony! Help!" The call dropped. Alan did not just take his money. He did not just take his company. He came to take their freedom. He had dug up the graves of their past. After being detained overnight and interrogated, Linda was finally released on bail. but it was not freedom. She was released into a world she no longer recognized. She had no one. She tried calling Anthony, but her son's phone was dead. Anthony had fled, hiding like a coward. Linda took a taxi using the last few dollars in her purse, heading straight to Alan's mansion. She banged on the massive iron gates. "Open the gates! Let me speak to Alan! It is Linda!" The security guards inside stared at her. Under Alan's instructions, they opened the small side gate. "Mr. Allen cannot be disturbed, but you may wait in the lobby." Linda did not care. She pushed the gate open and ran inside. The vast courtyard felt like a mockery. She barged through the open front doors, leading her into the grand main lobby. She stood under the crystal chandelier, soaking wet from the morning drizzle, looking pathetic. "Alan! Alan! Come out here, you ungrateful blind brat!" she screamed, her voice echoing in the marble-walled room. "He is in a meeting, ma'am." Linda spun around. At the top of the grand staircase, Willow stood looking down at her. She was not wearing an evening gown. She wore a simple yet expensive silk blouse and palazzo pants. Her scarf was neatly styled. She held a tablet in her hand, looking like the lady of the house. Seeing Willow, all of Linda's fear morphed into explosive anger. This was the source of her problems. This woman. "You!" Linda shrieked, her voice shrill. She ran toward the stairs. "This is all because of you, you cursed woman! Jinx! Ever since you married my son, our lives have been ruined." She tried to lunge at Willow, trying to pull her down the stairs. But Willow only took one step back, staring at her calmly. "How dare you blame me?" Willow's voice was freezing cold. There was no longer any tremor of fear like before. "Your life is ruined because of your own greed. You and Anthony plotted a murder." "Shut up!" Linda cried out in frustration. "You must have used Alan. You poisoned his mind. Give me back my son. Give me back my wealth. You snake." Willow shook her head slowly. "For 5 years, I was your daughter-in-law, in that tiny rented house. Every day, you insulted me. You said I was not good enough for Anthony. You said I was barren. You said I was just a burden." Willow began to descend the stairs, her steps steady. Linda backed away in fear, seeing the look in Willow's eyes. "You were wrong," Willow continued, now standing face to face with the woman who had mentally tortured her. "It was not me who was not good enough for Anthony. It is Anthony and you who do not deserve a single thing you stole." "Please." Linda finally broke down. She fell to her knees on the cold marble floor. "Please, Willow, I am begging you, speak to Alan. Do not put me in prison. Do not put Anthony in prison. He is my only son. I am begging you." She tried to embrace Willow's legs. "It is too late, Mom." Alan's voice echoed from the top of the stairs. He stood there, accompanied by Ben. His cane tapped the marble floor as he descended the stairs. Tap, tap, tap. Every tap sounded like a nail in Linda's coffin. Linda immediately crawled on the floor, shifting to Alan. She grabbed the fabric of Alan's trousers. "Alan, my son, forgive me. I made a mistake. I am old. Please spare Anthony. He is your brother. Take all his wealth, but do not put him in prison. I beg of you." Alan stopped. He did not kick Linda's hands away. He just stood in silence, letting the woman cry at his feet. "Stepmother," said Alan. His tone was flat, devoid of emotion. "Do you think I built all this just for money? Do you think I waited 10 years in darkness just for financial revenge?" He looked down, as if he could see the trembling woman beneath him. "You and your son tried to kill me. You took my eyesight. You took my youth. You threw me away like garbage. You think the word sorry can fix that? Then what do you want? Linda sobbed. I will not put you in prison, said Alan. Linda raised her head. Her eyes sparkled with hope. Truly? Truly, said Alan. That is too easy. Prison still has a roof. It still has free meals 3 times a day. No, I will not give you that luxury. Alan nodded once to Ben. Ben, who had been standing silently, stepped forward. In his hand was a small suitcase, a battered, dark brown suitcase with a worn-out handle. Linda recognized it. It was the exact same suitcase she had thrown at Alan 10 years ago when kicking him out. Ben placed the suitcase on the floor next to Linda. I am going to let you feel what I felt, Alan continued. Living without a single penny, living without a family name, living entirely on the mercy of strangers. I am going to let you feel what it is like to be invisible, just as you made me blind. What is this? Asked Linda, pointing at the suitcase. Ben managed to salvage a few of your old clothes before your house was seized, said Alan. The rest will be auctioned off to pay a small fraction of your son's debts. Now take it. Ben walked to the front door and opened it wide. The cold, damp morning air rushed in. Get out of my house, Alan commanded. Linda fell silent. She looked at the suitcase. She looked at Alan. She looked at Willow, who stood as still as a statue. There was no mercy in that room. With trembling hands, Linda grasped the handle of the battered suitcase. She tried to stand with whatever was left of her pride, but her legs were too weak. She dragged the suitcase across the marble floor. She stopped at the threshold, looking back one last time, hoping for a change of heart. But Alan had already turned away, and Willow only stared at her with empty eyes. Linda stepped out of the warmth of the house and onto the cold porch. Ben closed the door behind her. The sound of the heavy, solid oak door shutting tight sounded final. The drizzle began to fall heavier. Linda stood alone on the porch of the house that was supposed to be hers. She looked down at the suitcase in her hand. This was all that was left of her luxurious life. She had nowhere to go. She had no money. She had no one. Linda Caldwell fell to her knees on the porch, hugging the battered suitcase and crying hysterically. She was now officially a homeless beggar. Her karma was complete. For 3 days, Anthony lived like a rat. He hid in a cheap motel room on the outskirts of the city, paying in cash with the remaining money in his wallet. He did not dare turn on his phone. He knew they were looking for him. The police, debt collectors, and worst of all, Alan's people. The room was stuffy, smelling of stale cigarette smoke and cheap disinfectant. He only went out at night to buy instant noodles at a nearby convenience store, wearing a hat and a mask. The rest of his time was spent in front of an old television in his room, watching the news on low volume. He saw it on the 3rd day, a local news segment about the rising number of homeless people downtown. The camera focused on an old woman sitting on the sidewalk, hugging a battered suitcase. The woman looked confused, dirty, and haggard. Anthony leaned closer to the screen. His heart felt like it stopped beating. It was his mother, Linda. The woman who always wore sparkling jewelry and designer clothes, now sitting on the sidewalk, her hair a mess, her eyes empty. All her arrogance and pride were gone, replaced by pitiful despair. Something inside Anthony snapped. His money was gone, his company was snatched away, his mistress betrayed him, and his mother, the only person who always defended him, was now broken down into a homeless beggar. All of this because of one person. Alan. All of Anthony's hatred, fear, and desperation crystallized into one pure emotion: rage. He had nothing left. He was backed into a corner, and a cornered animal will only do one thing: attack. His rational logic had long since died. In his head, he constructed a crazy scenario. If Alan died, maybe this chaos would stop. If Alan, that blind man, died, maybe he could find a way to reverse all the transactions. Maybe he could reclaim his inheritance. It was the false hope of a defeated man, but it was the only thing he had. He would kill Alan. That very night. He left the motel. He went to a 24-hour convenience store and bought the most important item: a large, sharp kitchen knife. He still had a little cash left. He hid the knife inside his jacket. He walked for miles. He did not dare take a taxi. He knew Alan's address. It was his childhood home, the house Alan had reclaimed. He knew its ins and outs. He knew where the old security blind spots were. He arrived past midnight. The house stood majestic and dark. Only a few garden lights were on. He observed from across the street. The security was much tighter than he remembered. There were cameras everywhere. But Anthony knew one weakness. In the back garden, there was a blind spot near the old brick wall covered in ivy. A spot he and his friends used to use to sneak out when they were teenagers. He doubted Alan would remember it. He waited until a cloud covered the moon. Then he ran, scaling the wall quickly. He made it. He landed on the wet grass on the other side. No alarms went off. He was right. Alan did not know everything. Anthony's confidence grew slightly. He sneaked through the shadows of the trees, moving toward the main house. He knew Alan would be in their father's study downstairs. Alan always loved that room. He tried the back door near the kitchen. Locked, of course. He moved to the dining room window. He pulled out the knife. Using its heavy handle, he wrapped it in his jacket fabric and struck the corner of the window pane. The glass cracked with a soft sound. He pushed it a bit more, just enough for his hand to slip through and unlock the window latch from the inside. He climbed in. The air inside the house felt warm, different from outside. The house was dead silent. He was like a ghost in his own home. He walked barefoot on the marble floor, his steps muffled. He was not afraid. He was only consumed by rage. He reached the corridor leading to the study. Just like he thought, the heavy oak door was slightly ajar. There was no light from inside. The room was pitch black. Anthony peeked through the crack. The dim moonlight from the large window revealed a silhouette. Someone was sitting in the large armchair, facing the garden. His back turned. It was Alan. He just sat there, in the darkness, alone, blind, an easy target. This was the end. Anthony gripped the handle of the knife tightly. Cold sweat dampened his palms. He would not stab him in the back. No, he wanted that blind man to know who ended his life. He kicked the door wide open. "Alan!" he yelled, his voice echoing in the room. He lunged forward, crossing the room in 3 quick steps, raising his knife high. "You should have died a long time ago." The silhouette in the chair did not move. Anthony was ready to plunge the knife into Alan's shoulder or chest. Exactly a split second before the tip of the knife touched Alan's suit, an iron grip clamped onto his wrist. The grip was so strong, so sudden, it felt like it crushed Anthony's bones. The knife slipped from his grasp and clattered loudly on the floor. Anthony's eyes widened in shock. He turned his head. The hand belonged to Ben, Alan's driver, who appeared out of nowhere. Click! The room's main lights flared brightly. Anthony's eyes, accustomed to the dark, immediately squinted in pain. As his vision normalized, he saw a terrifying sight. Ben held him in a grip that was impossible to break. And the room was not empty. In every corner, Behind bookshelves, near the doors, stood 4 fully uniformed police officers. They did not rush. They just stared at him. It was a trap. "Let me go! Let me go!" Anthony struggled, but it was useless. Then, the figure in the chair moved. Alan Caldwell slowly stood up. He turned to face Anthony. He was not surprised. He was not afraid. In his ear, a small earpiece was secured. He smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "I have been waiting for you, Anthony," said Alan. His voice was calm. You knew," hissed Anthony, breathing heavily. How? How did you know?" "A desperate man is always predictable," said Alan, taking one step closer. "You saw your mother on the news, did you not? I was the one who made sure that segment aired during prime time. I knew that would be your trigger. I knew you would come for the only thing you had left: revenge." The police officers began to move forward, handcuffing Anthony's hands behind his back. "I already had the proof of your fraud," Alan continued, as if chatting casually. "I had the proof of your mother forging the will, but that would only put you both in prison for a few years. I did not like that. I did not want to risk you getting out in 10 years and bothering Willow." Alan stopped right in front of Anthony. Even though his eyes could not see, Anthony felt stripped bare by Alan's gaze. "I needed something more permanent," said Alan softly. "Something that will lock you in a cell forever. Something undeniable. Like attacking a blind man in his own home with a knife in front of law enforcement witnesses." Alan patted Anthony's cheek lightly. "Thank you, little brother. You just signed your own life sentence. Take him away." As the police dragged him out, Anthony glared at Alan with infinite hatred. But Alan merely smiled faintly, then turned around, sitting back in his chair facing the darkness, as if nothing had happened. The trial dominated national headlines for weeks. The Caldwell scandal overshadowed all political and celebrity news. The public devoured every detail: family betrayal, forged wills, massive fraud, and to top it off, a dramatic attempted murder. Linda was tried first. Alan's legal team had worked for years compiling this evidence. They brought in the old notary who finally confessed to being bribed, several eyewitnesses from the old board of directors, and forensic experts who proved the signature on the altered will was forged. In the defendant's chair, Linda was no longer the arrogant woman people knew. She was just a frail old woman, crying softly, no longer understanding what was happening. She was found guilty of all charges. The judge sentenced her to 7 years in prison for conspiracy and document forgery. When the verdict was read, she just stared blankly. Her karma had been paid in full. Then came Anthony's trial. This was even faster. Anthony had no defense. The financial evidence was irrefutable. Illegal wire transfers, defrauding investors, tax evasion. Alan's team had tracked every single dollar he stole. And then, the premeditated attempted murder charge. The 4 police officers who were in the room testified. Ben provided calm, detailed testimony. The CCTV footage from outside the house, which Anthony intentionally missed, showed him scaling the wall. And the final nail in the coffin, the kitchen knife with Anthony's clear fingerprints. Anthony, in his orange prison jumpsuit, tried to scream. He accused Alan of framing him. He accused Willow of conspiring. "He is blind, but he is a demon. He planned all of this," he screamed in the courtroom. But his outburst only made him look more guilty and unstable. Willow was present at the trial, but she did not need to testify. She just sat in the front row, next to Ben, staring straight ahead. Her gaze was calm, her scarf perfectly styled. She showed no hatred. She was just there to see justice served. The judge struck his gavel. Anthony Caldwell was found guilty of all charges: fraud, embezzlement, and premeditated attempted murder. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, without the possibility of parole. As he was dragged out of the courtroom, his eyes met Willow's for a split second. Willow did not look away. Anthony was the first to break eye contact. His head hung in defeat. The only remaining mystery was Daisy, the mistress. The news referred to her as Anthony's accomplice, who fled the country with millions of dollars of stolen money. The police declared her a fugitive. Only Alan and Willow knew the truth. Daisy was probably enjoying hot chocolate in a cafe in Switzerland at that moment, starting a new life with a massive payout from Alan for playing her role perfectly. 2 weeks after the final verdict, Willow stood in Alan's study, the same room where Anthony was arrested. Now the room felt peaceful. "Everything is finished," said Alan. He stood near the window, listening to the birds in the garden. "Yes," Willow answered softly. Alan turned around. "I owe you my life, Willow, and I owe this justice to you. You were the key. Name your number." Willow frowned. "Number? Compensation, severance, whatever you want to call it. Just name how many millions you want. A house, a car. You deserve it. Your life was destroyed by my family." Willow fell silent for a moment. The old Willow, the Willow he knew a year ago, might have cried and accepted, but she was no longer that Willow. "I do not want your money, Mr. Allen," she said firmly. Allen looked surprised. "What do you mean? You saved my life. You gave me justice. For that, I am grateful for the rest of my life," said Willow. "But I do not want to live on charity anymore. Not from Anthony, and with all due respect, not from you. I am done being a dependent." "Then what do you want?" asked Alan, genuinely confused. "An opportunity," answered Willow, her eyes shining. "Give me a job, a real job. For the past year, you taught me about business. I read every report. I know the ins and outs of this company. I want to build my own life, with my own hands. I want to earn what I have, not be given it." Alan fell silent. Then, for the first time, Willow saw Alan smile. Not a cynical or calculating smile, but a genuine, warm smile full of admiration. "That," said Alan, "is the best offer I have ever heard." 1 year later, the main boardroom of the Allen Group gleamed. Large digital screens displayed skyrocketing profit graphs. At the long conference table sat the board of directors and investors. At the head of the table, leading the presentation, stood a woman. "And with this expansion strategy into the Central Asian market, we project a 20% growth next quarter," she said, her voice full of confidence, clear and authoritative. It was Willow. She now served as the Chief Operating Officer of the Allen Group. Her elegant head wrap and sharp business suit radiated an undeniable aura of power. At the other end of the table, in the chairman's seat, Allen sat listening. He did not say anything. His blind face turned toward Willow's voice, and a faint, proud smile played on his lips. He had found a partner, not a subordinate. The scene shifted. The loud sound of a flushing toilet, dirty, mossy walls, a pungent stench of urine. A maximum security prison. A thin inmate in a faded orange uniform was pushing a mop over dirty water. He was much thinner. His eyes were hollow and dead. It was Anthony. A guard barked at him from the end of the corridor. "Hey, Anthony, hurry up and clean the toilet in the hall. It is clogged." Anthony just nodded slowly, dragging his feet and his bucket. He entered the crowded mess hall. In the corner of the room, an old television hung on the wall was broadcasting the evening business news. And the tremendous success of the Allen Group today is inseparable from the cold hands of their chief operating officer, Willow, who was just named one of the most influential female executives of the year. The television camera focused on Willow walking out of a skyscraper, smiling confidently at reporters. Under the television, Anthony stopped pushing his mop. Dirty water dripped onto the floor. He stared at the screen, stared at Willow's face. The face of the woman he dumped on a deserted mountain road. The face of the woman he tried to kill for insurance money. He was not angry. He did not scream. He just stood there, gripping the mop handle, staring at the symbol of everything he had lost. His gaze was empty, full of an unspoken regret that would accompany him for the next 30 years. Karma had been paid in full.